Alrighty, next up, I got 16.4, all about interquartile range. Okay, what the heck? Those are some big words right there. Guess what? Not that tricky. So when we're talking about interquartile range, we are definitely going to be working with box plots, which are these right here. Remember, to make my box plot, all I need are 5 values. I need the minimum, the maximum, and my median or middle number. But I've also got 2 other special points that I need, and they are this one and this one. When we were learning about box plots, we called those the middle of the lower half and the middle of the upper half. But we're going to increase our vocabulary a little bit. This is going to be now the first quartile, and this is going to be the third quartile. You technically can call your median your second quartile, but it's much more common to use median as your center value instead of saying your second quartile. That just sounds a little bit silly. So my interquartile range is just talking about the range between my middle 50% of data values. Remember when I got a box plot? Every single section represents 25% of the data. So here's one 25% or a quarter of the data, another quarter of the data, another quarter of the data, 1, 2, 3, and my last quarter of the data. So where we have our biggest range, which is going to be the maximum minus your minimum, that's typically going to be a lot larger, taking this biggest number, subtract your smallest number, than your range or your interquartile range, the range between the third quartile and the first quartile. So sometimes this is a good way to measure the center, especially if one section is a lot larger than the other. That means that these values are way spread apart. The middle values are typically more close together, so sometimes that's a really good way to measure the center. So what I need to do is I need to locate what point my third quartile is. It looks like 85. I'm just going to zoom in just to make sure. That looks like it's right about 85. I can look on this graph here. And my first quartile is 40. So I know I'm going to take my third quartile, which is going to be 85. Oh, that's a bad 8. I'll try that again. 85. Subtract my first quartile, 40. And that is going to give me my interquartile, between those quartiles range. And in this case, that's going to give me 45. Woohoo! Excellent, they say. Alrighty, let's clear my screen. But what about if we don't have a box plot to work with? Have no fear, children. We are just going to have to make our own. Remember, first step we got to do, put your numbers in order. So my smallest number is a 27. Scanning, looks like my next smallest is going to be a 38. My next is going to be 39, then 44. Oh, you know what? Looks like I skipped a 43 here. I'm going to erase. Make sure I get that 43 there. 43, then 44, then 45. And then I will have, looks like 52, then 56, 60, and 63. So obviously my minimum and my maximum are going to be the smallest and the biggest numbers. And while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and find the median as well. But in this case, I've got an even number of data values. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 data values. So my middle two are these 44 and 45. So what I got to do is I've got to find the mean or the average of those two numbers to get my median. And I know that right in between 44 and 45 is going to be 44.5. So now this value is my median. The lower half of my data set is going to be everything to the left of the median, so less than this 44, because remember, this 44.5 is my median. And then my upper half is going to be everything bigger than my median, which is going to be 45 all the way up to 63. And so now what I can do is I can find that first quartile, or middle of the lower half. That's going to be my 39. And my third quartile, middle of the upper half, is going to be this 56. And then to find my interquartile range, that is going to be 56 minus 39, or 17. So there's my interquartile range. Okay, and just for an example, say that I have got 2 extra values in my data set. Say I've got a 26 over here and maybe another 63 over there. Let's erase some of this so it looks a little nicer. My median, still gonna be the same, that 44.5. I have new maximum and minimum now. And now, instead of having a really easy middle for my first quartile and my third quartile, I'm going to need to do something a little different. So now here's my lower half of my data set, and I've got 2 middle numbers, that'd be 38 and 39. So I do the same thing that I did over here, finding the median. I've got to average these out, or 38 plus 39 divided by 2. It's going to give me 38.5. And I have to do the same thing with my upper half. Let's make it red over here. Find my middle 2 values, which is going to be 56 and 60. I know when I add those up and divide by 2, that's going to give me 58. So if I were to have these 2 extra data points and I had to average to find the interquartile range, that is totally fine. Just make sure you're subtracting your third quartile, or the middle of the upper half, minus your first quartile, or the middle of the lower half. So that is it. And please make sure, some of these problems say round to the nearest whole number or the nearest hundredth. Make sure you are rounding.